Hi, it's Nicole. This is going to be a very busy video. I visited Stratford upon Avon last week and I want to show you a place that's so closely associated with Shakespeare, and then there were quite a few good bookshops there, including a very satisfying secondhand bookshop I want to show you what I bought. And lastly, a month dedicated to reading Shakespeare is coming up. I can't wait to join in the fun. This is perfect timing and especially exciting for me because we watched a play when we were in Stratford and that was exciting in itself. I will tell you more a bit later. The play we watched was All's Well That Ends Well, and this is exactly one of the plays we are going to read and discuss in Shaketember. What's the likelihood of that? So I guess usually you would watch 3 videos on 3 different subjects like this, but I only make 1 video per week and they are kind of related, maybe not the book haul. So I will link the timestamps in the description box and you can just skip to the section you are interested in. I had the great good fortune that some of our family moved to Worcestershire in England recently. Worcestershire is right next to Warwickshire, and Warwickshire is called Shakespeare's County. So that was how we ended up in Stratford on Monday. If you'd like the full experience, Shakespeare Birthplace Trust is a charity that looks after the Shakespeare heritage sites in Stratford. You can buy 1 ticket and see 3 sites: Shakespeare's birthplace, Shakespeare's new place, and Anne Hathaway's cottage. Shakespeare's birthplace is right in the middle of the main street in Stratford. Shakespeare's birthplace was Shakespeare's childhood home. After he got married, the young couple continued to live with his parents there. Their 3 children were born there as well. The new place was where Shakespeare's family home used to be. He lived there for 19 years until his death. In Bill Bryson's Shakespeare, The World as a Stage, he says, 9 months after Hamlet's death in May 1597, Shakespeare bought a grand but mildly dilapidated house in Stratford on the corner of Chapel Street and Chapel Lane. New Place was the 2nd biggest dwelling in town. Built of timber and brick, it had 10 fireplaces, 5 handsome gables, and ground large enough to incorporate 2 barns and an orchard. The original house is not there anymore. I read it somewhere that it was occupied by someone in the 18th century and he was so sick of Shakespeare's admirers, he pulled the whole house down and built a new one for himself somewhere else. What a shame. Anne Hathaway's cottage was where Shakespeare's wife Anne Hathaway was born and raised. The birthplace and the new place are both just in the town centre and the cottage is on the outskirts of Stratford. We didn't go into any of these 3 places, we went straight into the Birthplace Trust Bookshop. I will let you see for yourself what a wonderful place it is. Stratford is not big, it's nice and easy to wander around and just soak in the atmosphere. There are a lot of beautiful old buildings in that part of the country. Some of them I have no idea what kind of places they are. They're just beautiful to behold. Some of them are occupied by just ordinary people. I find that incredible. Those buildings are still standing and still serving the original purpose. I didn't do any homework before we went, we just wandered around, but still came across all sorts of unexpected treasures. It just shows how small and compact Stratford is. We walked along the river through a park, and I got tired, so we sat down on a bench in a churchyard. My husband took some random footage, and because the unusual weather, it looked like deep autumn even though it was still in the middle of summer. So he took some random footage, and only when I did some research for this video did I realize that that was where Shakespeare and his family were buried. We didn't go in because we didn't know, but we will go back. So those are some of the places that are related to Shakespeare's person, and next I want to show you the theatres in Stratford. Here's Royal Shakespeare Theatre with Swan Theatre at the other end. We went up the tower to see the town from above. Here's the other place, RSC's third theatre space. It has a very interesting history. I first heard about it in Mad About Shakespeare, which I read earlier this year. It was a tin hut turned studio theatre for radical and experimental works, initially directed by a young woman called Buzz Goodbody in the 70s. It wasn't open to the public when we were there. I look forward to one day going in there and get my socks blown off. All's Well That Ends Well was on that day when we were there. As much as we would love to watch it, we just couldn't afford it. But on that day, on that Monday, there was a pre-show talk and the ticket was a lot more affordable, so I booked 2 tickets. I booked the best seats in the auditorium because all the seats for the talk had the same price, and I thought a bit sadly and resignedly that this would be the only time we could afford to sit in such luxury. The talk was between the host, whose name I didn't catch, sorry, and the director of All's Well That Ends Well, Blanche McIntyre. She explained the theme of the show and how she interpreted it and how she decided to put it in that specific time period. I will talk more about that pre-show talk when I make my All's Well That Ends Well video for Shaketember. The talk was so excellent and intriguing, I suddenly wanted to watch the play despite the cost and the trailer. I will tell you more about the trailer in my All's Well video as well. My husband seemed to expect this to happen, as in me changing my mind, and was very happy to stay in Stratford a few more hours, and a very kind staff at the box office even sold us some really good tickets with a discount. I sat 3 rows from the edge of the stage, nearly crying with joy. The day has become just better and better every minute. I will tell you about the performance in my All's Well video as well. This is just all about my day in Stratford. I got into the main theatre space twice on that day and sat on 2 different premium seats. Each seat had a name on their back, so each seat was named after a person, and they all had a name tag on the back of the chair. So I don't know many people in the theatre world. I'm still new, and everything I know about theatre and Shakespeare, everybody, like almost everybody I know to do with theatre or Shakespeare, I learned from Mad About Shakespeare. And there they were, 2 very important British theatre director, their names right in front of me, Sir Peter Hall and Sir Trevor Nunn. Their seats were right in front of us. So if you sit on F43 or F44, you have Peter Hall's name right in front of you. If you sit on C62 or 63, you have Trevor Nunn. What coincidence. This is getting more absurd, I know, and you probably don't care at all, but it made my day very special. The icing on the cake, as I sat there before the show started, twisting about looking at the interior of the theatre and just oozing excitement in general. I saw the lady from the pre-show talk shuffle along the row and sit right behind us. It was the director. I even spoke to her at the end. She looked a bit surprised to hear that we decided to stay and watch the show only after hearing her talk. Maybe I shouldn't have told her that. But all these small things made for a wonderful, happy day. So that's enough of my day in Stratford. Let's look at the books I bought. I didn't buy any special editions from the Birthplace Trust Bookshop. What a mouthful. Because I suspected they were probably the same inside, just a different, like a special stamp on the cover. But I did want to buy a RSC as well because that's where I watched it. However, unfortunately, by the time we come out of the play, the bookshop was closed, so just be aware of that. So I bought my RSC as well online when I got home. I said in my last video that what I didn't like about the RSC edition was its silky paper stock and the ink smudges when you write in it. Who could have thought that I had to correct this information within a week? This copy has normal paper stock and the ink doesn't smudge anymore. Can you spot the difference? Not very obviously, right? If you look at the spine, that's probably easier if you will focus. The Much Ado is published by Macmillan and my Oswell is published by Bloomsbury. If you look at the publication information page, this was first published by Macmillan as well. This has just been reprinted by Bloomsbury this year, 2022. I love the normal paper stock choice, but the font types on the spines are different. It really annoys me. There was an excellent secondhand bookshop in Stratford called the Shakespeare Hospice Bookshop. I found a whole set of Virginia Woolf's diaries published by Penguin in the 70s and the 80s. I thought I got the whole set, but I think there should be a volume 5, so I only got 4 here. They have a distinct 70s and the 80s feel to them, don't they? I posted a video about Virginia Woolf's essay on Thomas Hardy a while ago, and one of you left me a comment saying Woolf wrote a very interesting diary entry in 1926 describing her visit of old Hardy, which is definitely worth a read. I can now go and find it. I found a Persephone book called Few Eggs and No Orange. It's the diaries of Vere Hodgson from 1940 to 45. I read a non-fiction book called Eggs or Anarchy a while ago. This is the story of Lord Wootton, Britain's Minister of Food during the Second World War. It was amazing, both the story and the minister himself. I found the historical period of Second World War quite fascinating. Eggs or Anarchy looked at the food situation from the government level. Few eggs and no oranges is from the ordinary citizen's perspective, and I'm sure it will talk about more than just food. Lastly, a very reasonably priced London portrait of a city by the Folio Society. Each chapter is about a certain historical period of London, all the way from the Romans to the 90s, with a lot of beautiful maps and photos. I love the photo of St. Paul in the Blitz, and lots of drawings, paintings and illustrations. It's just so beautifully produced. I don't know if I'm going to read this cover to cover, but it's definitely going to provide a lot of information and background stories to a lot of the novels, a lot of the stories I'm going to read or I've already read. So very excited to look through that. Now let's move on to Shaketember planning. I'm joining the Shaketember this year, which is a month dedicated to reading Shakespeare. The first week we are all going to read All's Well That Ends Well, which I just watched on stage. It'll be interesting to see if reading it gives me the same impression as watching it. The second week, Coriolanus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Coriolanus. I know nothing about missed it. I know nothing about it and I never heard of it before this, so look forward to that. The third one, A Midsummer Night's Dream, which I heard is very wacky. I found a short clip of the first few minutes of the 2013 Globe production and recognized the second brother in Bridgerton as one of the actors. I didn't realize he had a theatre background. By the way, just look at the color palette of their costumes and the set on stage. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. Quite a lot of British actors have a theatre background. Benedict Cumberbatch was Sherlock in the BBC TV series and also Hamlet. Colin Morgan was Merlin in the 2008 TV series and also Ariel in The Tempest. Jack Lasky was Alfred in X Company and also Orlando in As You Like It. Josh O'Connor was Mr. Elton in Emma and also Romeo. I know it's mind-boggling. Mr. Elton and Romeo are into completely different categories, but believe me, it's heartbreakingly sweet and innocently sexy. I guess the tradition goes back all the way, a long way. Judi Dench, Ian McKellen and many more. And I remember hearing stories about casting directors go to obscure little theatre productions to discover the next leading actors on the silver screen. So the last week we will be reading some sonnets as well. I will link the announcement videos from all three hosts in the description box. In addition to the plays, I'd like to read the preface of the complete works of Shakespeare edited by Samuel Johnson. I got it here. I also would like to read two essays by Charles Lamb. One is called On the Tragedies of Shakespeare and the other is called Sanity of True Genius. They are both about Shakespeare, I think. I would love to hear Charles Lamb's opinion, comments on Shakespeare's plays. And I also would like to read Orlando by Virginia Woolf because that novel I heard has a strong presence of Shakespeare throughout. All these are mentioned, quoted and wonderfully explored in Mad About Shakespeare. If you are joining September and would like to read something apart from the plays, can I please recommend Mad About Shakespeare by Jonathan Bate, which is published earlier this year, so brand new book. It's my favorite book of 2022 so far and I made a video all about it. You know when a friend, when they are very enthusiastic about something, either it's a film or a coffee shop, their enthusiasm can be contagious and you are excited to come along as well. Jonathan Bates' love for Shakespeare, for theatre, for literature is definitely contagious. It's a book about his life and his love for literature and about literature itself, especially Shakespeare and the theatre. They are so closely intertwined. Sometimes it's often difficult to tell where one starts or where one ends and the other starts. It's passionate, it's intelligent, and it's just very, very beautiful. I really recommend you to give it a try. So are you joining Shaketember? And what are you reading in addition to the three plays and the sonnets? Are you reading anything apart from them? Especially if you know any retellings of those three plays, please let me know. I'd love to read something in addition to the plays and the essays. So please let me know. I would love to hear from you. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.